morning.
Hey! We are here at one of our favorite gardens in Berkeley. I guess we call this the Julia Morgan house. It is one of the three sisters' houses here in Berkeley that Julia Morgan and her two sisters, she built for her two sisters. And it's a gorgeous property that we installed the garden, designed and installed the garden for 2 years ago. Holly Kuljian from our team is the lead designer for this, and she did a totally stunning job. And I actually haven't been here since last August, I think, which is kind of wild. It's been a lot of rain and then a lot of heat, so we are going to see a lot of plant growth. But it's exciting and fun. It's a really cool design, and we can't wait to show it to you. This is part of our new series. We thought it'd be fun to show you all some tours of our various gardens and kind of do seasonal visits. So each month we'll be visiting 1 or 2 gardens, kind of showing off the seasonal highlights. And we won't cover everything, but we'll talk about kind of what's working, what isn't working, what we think is exciting, and hopefully give you some tips that you can try at home. So this is the entrance to the garden, and we wanted to show you this because it's such a, again, a gorgeous house, but really a very formal house. And you know, with a large brick structure like this, we really didn't want to create something that looked formal and old-fashioned. We wanted the family who lives here is young, they're modern, they're cool, and we wanted to design a garden that was young and cool like them. Citrus, palms, leucadendrons, roses, and then tons of foliage texture. And the idea was sort of modern, Mediterranean, floral, just graphic and unexpected. So we'll walk you through some of it. So let's see, some existing things that were here were these urns, which I love our update, which is just a really classic simple sago palm and these donkey tail succulents hanging out. This is doing fantastic. I'm really happy. They're easy, they're tough. Like, this is southern exposure, so it's a ton of sun and a ton of sort of reflective heat. As we go up, you can see the scale of the plants is growing in pretty nicely. One thing I sort of wish we'd done was push the clients to do taller thuyas. Those are the evergreen columns against the brick. Because with the scale of the house, you really do want some greenery that's, 15 plus feet up. But those will come along, and in the meantime, everything else is growing in so nicely. We've got this is the citrus here. We've got for evergreen structure, which is really sort of the basis of all of our gardens, but you can kind of see how this garden is organized. So we've got the magnolias. Those are the little gem dwarf southern magnolias. We've got that beautiful kind of rusty orange on the back of the leaf, which is very intentional because it ties in with the brick. Like, whenever we're working with brick, we love to tie in oranges and reds to kind of highlight that color. In boxwood, these little pyramids were here, and we decided to work with them and actually add more. And we kept the entrance pretty simple and formal so that this gorgeous portico entrance could really shine. Boxwood, Lomandra, Platinum Beauty. This is our favorite variegated evergreen grass. It is also a monster. Don't be scared as we walk through. This is the plant we've actually learned about how to use over the years. It is specked, as I was just telling Jessica, it's specked, so it's supposed to be 3 feet. Truly, when it's happy, which is almost all the time, it grows to like 4 to 5 feet. So you'll see that. They're a little crowded, better than it has been at some other gardens we've done, but I think we'd space them out even more in the future. But this is an awesome plant if you want bright variegation, deer-proof, low water, evergreen. And you can see how that variegated foliage looks so good with the dark green of the boxwood. Has a lot of perennial edibles as the base. So this is one of our favorites, the Myrtus communis, which is also another plant I'm kind of watching and seeing how it works. It blooms. This is an edible. The blooms are edible, the leaves are edible, and then in the fall it's going to make berries that are edible. And it's sort of like culinary berries. So if you use the leaves as you would use culinary bay, and then the berries are best used sort of roasted with meats. But so that's sort of a fun, unusual perennial edible. We had an existing Eureka lemon, which has totally come back to life. You can really rehab them, and this is a great example. This was not a good looking lemon tree, but we pruned it, we fed it, and now it's been on regular fertilizing and water for 2 years, and it's fully loaded. It actually has a really nice form, and it's looking great. This little highlight here, this is what a Japanese anemone. I believe it's September charm. It's a really pretty, like, pinky coral color. But so those flowers will come in September. But what I'm actually excited about is its foliage, because I feel like one of the things that we're always looking for in the garden is a broad green leaf. because so many popular plants, you think of like salvias, but so many plants, they have fine leaves. And then what you see a lot is a bunch of fine leaf plants together, and it just looks messy. It's not very pleasing to the eye. What makes things look really good is contrasting them. So here we've got like this fine leaf texture. This is somewhat of a fine leaf texture. You can see this is a little blady. And then what makes it all pop is this beautiful dark green Japanese anemone. And what's so cool is that it stays up, I think even in the winter, it stays pretty far. It doesn't go all the way down to the ground. It's not technically evergreen, but here it's working really well. Walk along, take a look at the little GM that's here. Because I feel like you can see we've kind of interwoven like the evergreen variegated fucrea, the evergreen Myrtus communis, and then lots of changeable perennial flowers that will come and go. So salvia, indigo spires, salvia Danielle's dream, love that icy pink, perovskia, that's the Russian sage. So a lot of different sages with fine leaves that will disappear. And then look how we have the geum, which is another really pretty bloom, but it offers that broad green leaf again. And that's what makes this kind of mixed planting work. I think maybe one of the most important things about this pathway is that we've created a rhythm with evergreens and foliage in dark green and variegated white. So you see this really huge Lomandra again. Pathway is totally pleasing to walk along because of two things, I would say. One is you've got this evergreen triangulation. So this is this lime here. There's that lemon that we stopped and talked about. And then when you get to the end, there's another lemon. It's a variegated lemon. So those three lemons, along with other smaller evergreens, kind of guide your eye down. Then our secondary tool for making this pathway rhythmic is the Lomandra and the Euphorbia Tasmanian tiger. So that's the variegated white and green. And so that you can see it just staggers along. It's one of those unconscious things that I think is super important about garden design, is that your experience of walking through the garden or doing anything in the garden should be guided by the plants. It just feels better, right? So if you're walking along and the plants are rhythmic, then you're just gonna, as you walk along, you're just gonna have this experience. Another great example of triangulation, you can see the canna lilies, this bright orange flower. So that is there and there and there, and that really just helps you to know, like, okay, we're going this way. It's a lot of exciting visual things going on here, but because of the repetition and because of the triangulation, the space works and you kind of know where to go, which is right this way. Which I have to say is a little more of a climbing rose than I think we thought. So I don't know that we would have entirely done this on purpose, but it is evocative. I love the way it kind of arches over the pathway. And then look at that really pretty bloom. I think this is Wallerton. Really highlighting the rusty orange tones. Like really, like the main thing out here is the existing brick of the house and the entry pathway. So we really highlighted that with the plants. I already mentioned the magnolia. This is a gorgeous little felt plant, copper spoon. So pretty. Again, that broad leaf texture with this contrasty blue Camerops, the Mediterranean fan pop. And as we move along, you're just going to see a lot of the same plants repeated with little pops of things. So our magnolias happening again, those thuyas, the unfortunately short thuyas, but they're growing. This variegation that we started and talked about at the front with the Lomandra and the Euphorbia Tasmanian tiger. Like one way to think about using or repeating variegation in the garden is that you can repeat the same plants maybe at one level or in some way, and then you can also bring in that repetition with a different plant that has the same coloring. So this is a great example. This cordyline, Torbay Dazzler, it's a little creamier, yellowier, but this speaks so strongly to the really established Lomandra Platinum Beauty rhythm that we set up. We're referencing it again with this frosty Fatsia spiderweb. We are cruising along here.
Leslie, do you want to talk about the curve? I guess this isn't a curving path, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
And it creates some separate spaces and creates a little intrigue maybe about what's around the corner.
I totally agree. Yeah, this I remember. This was a sort of a a funny little space. We had to like work out how to connect this path to the side area and navigate this area. Created this little jogging path and a path that jogs. We have sort of like a landing pad. Like the path is narrow and then you have a landing pad where you might pause and right now view the air conditioning units. And then the path sort of again, like it constricts again and that encourages you to keep moving. I'll point out this, I'm actually so happy with this. This is euonymus greenspire. We planted this in 5-gallon. We tend to use this plant a ton for just narrow screening. It's like a really hardworking, it does great in center shade. It's evergreen, it's narrow and columnar, and it's just elegant and simple and disappears. Such a great plant, and I'm so happy. Like it's, it needs another year and a half probably, but they came in like down here. So they're growing up. They're gonna screen this air conditioning unit. We'll have it grow to here probably. It's not growing into the pathway too much. It's doing its job, so I'm really happy about it. That's one to totally recommend. And again, I think mostly you'll see along here foliage contrast. Like look at this glossy green small leaf. We got this fuzzy green Meyer's asparagus, the Ligularia gigantea for some like super broadleaf contrast, the tree fern overhead, and really this here, it's a little jungly. Yeah, I think many of you may have seen the walk through my garden with Robbie who visit our garden. We are we're a little bit maximalist over here and not afraid of a immersive experience. And I think as these grow, I mean the vision is for these to grow a little more and this canopy gets a little higher so that you walk through and you're not like in a leaf. But it's getting there, and I think you can start to get a sense for the feeling. So what could have been a really boring corner is actually this interesting jogged pathway, these awesome plants that give you this immersive experience, and it's one of our favorite corners of the garden. There's more I could say, but right now I think what's so pretty that I'll talk about are these oak leaf hydrangeas. And we love the oak leaf hydrangeas, one because it's evergreen in our climate, so it's again that same broad green leaf they're always looking for. It contrasts so nicely with everything, and then the blooms are so pretty. They're white in the summer, and then as late summer, we're in August now, late summer and fall comes along, they turn to this really pretty rosy pink. But I think it actually started out a little pink, but it's going to get redder and rustier, and all of them do that, and that's one of the really nice things about the oak leaf hydrangea. Just trying to embrace eclecticism here, so there's some cool aloes along the way, an apple tree, and truly the whole point of here is getting to the gate. And so the gate is the real highlight of the garden. It is so gorgeous, and I feel like this is sort of the quintessential charming garden gate. There is a rose planted on the other side that's going to trail over, and it's a really pretty soft pink color. And let's go in the garden and check it out. Oh, there's the rose. Coming along. It's a large backyard, which is pretty rare for Berkeley to have so much space. With a view, it's level, there's a view, it's an awesome property for that reason. And it's really a family backyard with everything that we thought a family might want to have. So you've got a terrace area for entertaining, there's a lawn over there, we'll get over there briefly. There's a family vegetable garden, there is a dedicated in-ground cutting perennial garden. Over to the side on the outside, we'll do a quick look over there later, is a dedicated orchard meadow cutting flower. And this client is super into, these clients I should say, are super into food. They love growing and eating their own food. And then they're super into flowers. And the flowers are sort of a creative, fun project. Perennial and annual flowers for them to cut and arrange. Really pretty entrance to the terrace. You saw the veggie garden and that has its own theme. Note there were silver wistringias at the front of the veggie beds, and that ties into the other silvery icy tones that you'll see in the rest of the garden. A real focus on evergreen, all season beauty, because this is right off of their kitchen and like dining room area and entertaining area. It's a glass door, so the way this looks all year matters. This is like classic indoor, outdoor California living. And that was really the theme of this garden. Half of them are from California, they're American, but they had been living in England for a long time with their kids, and were coming back to Berkeley. The idea was to bring in some of the best of the English gardens and create this modern sort of hybrid California English garden. So it's a modern California take on some English fabulousness. Here we go. This is just such a cute little front patio area. I think at some point there's supposed to be chairs here for like a little morning coffee. But I love this. And again, tons of evergreens. We've got the same euonymus. That's star jasmine. So I think it's just finished flowering, but that was covered with these really pretty fragrant blooms. Walking iris, leucadendron jester. These guys are gorgeous. So this is definitely a seasonal highlight. Posted a picture of these a couple weeks ago on our Instagram. But this is Triangulation, not the hammer Pandora, which we use in a lot of our gardens, and also in another part of this garden. But this is the straight species, which is such a pretty pale blue. It just got this reddish tone. The stems are red. So it's sort of, throughout this garden, it's greens, shades of green, icy tones, and then that same sort of rusty orangey red color that really picks up the color of the brick. Works so beautifully with these other, again, like an evergreen tangerine, these beautiful desmatiana, agave desmatiana. This is a tree aloe. Out here we've got lots of evergreens, the icy tones, the rusty tones, and then little pops of burgundy. And the burgundy just really helps to saturate and give like punctuate the ocean of plants we're looking at. This patio, which has dining, lounging. The western sun is over there, so like, you know, afternoon into evening exposure out here is pretty hot. It's the morning now, so it's shaded. And so the main issue is creating some sort of shade. So there's umbrellas, but also not blocking the view entirely. There's two oaks that partially block it, but there's a beautiful little peekaboo view of the bay over there. So we created this table pruning structure, which we're pretty excited about. We've never done it before, but I think it's going really well. They're London plane trees, which do get huge, but can also be pruned really heavily, which is what you see all over Europe in streetscapes. And so we've got these structures that we're starting. This is now 2 years in, and so the trees are the right height. And we built the structures, and we're gonna prune the tops of these, but we're gonna keep the leaves sort of flat and table pruned, like the word, kind of the term says it all. And so they're not gonna grow too high to block more of the view. They do frame the space really beautifully and sort of make the terrace into an outdoor room. And they also help provide a little bit of shade. So we're into it. The vegetables, which you saw when we walked in, are there. 4 10-foot beds. The most important thing is that this is, again, a really stylized, formal garden. So we didn't, and vegetable beds are great, but like we didn't want the farm in this like beautiful space. So what we did is we planted those 4 wistringias in front of each box on each side. And that really just helps to soften the look of the boxes. We do that sometimes, like it means that you can't access the beds on that side, but it really does, it works wonders for softening the look of the beds and making it feel not like wooden veggie box dominated, which is appropriate for this landscape. If you look over here, there's sort of family play space. So there's the lawn, and then a walking path, and then a little meditation bench. Tons of fruit trees worked in here, and then more in the orchard area. We do just a little walk through, and we're gonna kind of speed it up and just kind of show you what's looking awesome. But come, walk this way. This is sort of like the main walkway experience. And I love this. I love the way the London plane trees create this sort of overhead canopy. This is, again, just like an experience. As you walk through, you have that feeling of immersion. You're walking through. We've used boxwood again, and the gray box wistringia as evergreen, and this grass, which is not the Pennisedum little hamlin, I think it is, to be an evergreen structure. And then there's tons of gorgeous, just random soft fun flowers. Like look at this beautiful gomphrena fireworks. You saw this in my backyard. It's something we love to use. Beautiful yarrow terracotta. Look at these are so pretty. The agapanthus, I'm pretty sure these are storm cloud. We'll just stop on the agapanthus for a minute because they are so pretty. And I have to say, when I started gardening, and I feel like when Holly and I started working together, you know, the only agapanthus I knew were the agapanthus my mom had in her front yard for 90 years that were so lame and pale blue, and I just thought they were really lame. They are not. They're so cool.
Are you calling your mom lame?
To be fair, they were there before my mom got there, but I just remembered it was just so, it seems so boring, and you see them in like sort of neglected gardens because they are fighters. They'll just live forever. And I think Holly was similarly not fond of them, but one of our clients down in Atherton was really fond of this particular dark blue color. And I do really love, and so we sort of started a journey of coming around to the agapanthus, and have come to love them. Like, one, I love this dark blue color and the way that saturated purple blue reads in the landscape. Like, you can see there's lots of other color, the warm tones, the pale purple, the beautiful white hydrangeas. We got to go get a close up on those. But this dark purple saturation is super helpful for kind of cutting through that. And then I love that they're up on these stems, they wander around. It's a very classic sort of English garden kind of feel too. And we just like it a lot. So anyway, they're popping right now, which is exciting. All the main pathways in this garden are very rectilinear, and then with gravel as the main primary pathway material. And then the way we indicated the secondary pathway is by using these paver stones set with thyme, creeping thyme in between. So if we walk through here quickly, because it's not that gorgeous at the moment, I think this was stunning in the spring, and we'll have another moment probably in another couple of weeks, but it's in between, which is incidentally why it's further away from, it's not the central area. Like, this is a working garden. We've got peonies, which were covered with peony blooms in the spring. There's blueberries, there's phlomis, there's roses, and the roses are, you know, sort of not blooming a ton right now, but you've got a couple pretty blooms there. This is one of our favorite plants for foliage for cutting flowers. It's a Belia kaleidoscope, and it's just such a pretty branch structure to sort of create a frame in a cutting flower arrangement. So we tend to plant that a lot. This is a little lilac, some elderberry. So a lot of sort of lilacs and elderberries are great examples of plants that are not beautiful most of the year. They lose their leaves in the winter. They're just a little awkward. They have the lilac blooms for 2 weeks, and it's amazing, and it's edible, and it's all the things, but like, you don't want that by your front door or like around your patio. It makes sense toward the rear of a garden and a working area. And then speaking of working, welcome to this cute veggie garden. So I love this little space. I love that there's a real circuit. You can like move through the garden really easily. Jessica, you might need to tell us about this awesome trellising here. The tomatoes are doing so well this year. It's exciting. Last year was chilly, so we had a kind of sad tomato summer. But this year they're doing great. Tell us about this flat panel trellising.
Yeah, we don't do it very often, but in a couple of gardens where we have the space or clients don't want as many vining veggies, because usually we use the vertical trellising for vining things like cucumbers and beans. But this client in particular, we have a lot of trellising, and they were a little less interested in the vining stuff, so we thought, hey, let's try an espalier tomato.
Yeah, come look at this trunk. It's so cool. I love that.
This one is doing great.
It's doing brilliant. So it's a super sweet 100, which is a classic red cherry tomato. And I just think that's so neat. It's doing really well.
You'll have to peek around the back there. Some of them are hanging over the edge. It's pretty cute.
Oh, neat. And then we've got some other tomatoes here. This looks like it's a Hawaiian pineapple tomato, and they are coming along. We really organize, the clients here travel a lot in the summer. So the early part of the summer. So we orient this garden toward a late harvest, which happens naturally in a lot of ways, but that's also part of why we don't do so many green beans and whatnot. But the tomatoes are all coming in, and when they come back from their trip, they are gonna enjoy them. There's some giant ones on the front there. We've got cucumbers over this arch. I feel like, Jessica, you should join in here. This is some of the magic you've been working on. But we do have green beans.
They do have green beans. Yeah, they did do the green beans, which I'm guessing the neighbors and house sitter have been enjoying.
Yeah, they look good.
And then this one, we actually did do the cucumbers over here. And they're also very happy.
Yeah,
and we'll keep going for quite a while. And a few peppers. This is a really fun one. I think it's the Mexican, sometimes they call it Mexican tarragon or Tajitis lucida.
Yep.
It's similar to tarragon. It's a little bit sweeter and a little less anisey, maybe?
Yeah.
But super delicious.
Yeah, and I think our client was super into it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think last year he was, I can't remember what he was doing.
Doing something with it.
Salads and
salads.
Something.
I've heard people do cocktails with it.
I'm gonna try it too.
Mm-hmm.
The leaf?
The leaf, yeah. Got a nice bright flavor.
I've never eaten that. That is licoricey.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, yes, kind of anise hyssop-y, but different.
But different, yeah,
That's
different
cool.
from the classic.
And so pretty. I love this. I love that it's like tumbling and that orange color. We've got a lot of stuff in here. I mean, there's carrots still hanging along. Sort of embracing the idea of like a pantry garden too. Like if you're gonna make something and you don't have it all in your fridge, you can come out and there's always an odd carrot and just things that you can pick and cook. The wife here went to culinary school and is super into cooking, so it's fun to have sort of more sophisticated ingredients.
We got the magic basil right behind you. There's one behind you, one in front of you.
Everywhere.
That's one that we use for
same way that the burgundy is used in the landscape, right?
Exactly.
So you've got like the vegetable garden is a great example of like kind of an ocean of green, and you get different colors and shapes, but it's mostly green. So we really like to use the burgundy leaf or the purple leaf of the purple basil, the wild magic basil, and then this is another great example, the red shiso, which is also an edible leaf that you can use for salads or for making drinks and desserts. Anyway, so that kind of helps just visually to have this garden make sense. So yeah, we rely on burgundy a lot for that. More tomatoes. There's the one that was behind me. Here's a little kitty. This agastache is always a fun one. This is another edible flower, and the foliage, the whole plant's edible, but usually what we'll do is cut the leaves, and I like to make like a sun tea with mine. So you cut the leaves, they're kind of sweet and licoricey, and then the flowers are edible as well, and so those are a great decoration for drinks, desserts, and they're sweet. It's Annabelle hydrangea season. Classic summer bloomer. We don't plant a lot of hydrangeas in the landscape. We do really love them for cutting because they're such a great cut flower. But because they're deciduous, and I don't know, maybe it's because they're just kind of, they feel a little overused sometimes. We don't plant a ton of them, but they felt right for here. And I love the way they are sort of this classic, romantic, exuberant pop of bloom, really like saturated bloom that reads at a distance, amidst our sort of more subdued evergreens with the iris foliage. This is a beautiful spring bloom. The same little dwarf pennisetum, more iris, more boxwood, more westringia. And then this is kind of like the summer glory moment. You can see the Verbena bonariensis, that purple verbena on a stick. This gorgeous miscanthus flower head, seed head. This is so pretty. The echinacea. I mean, this is classic summer, classic Mediterranean summer. Also medicinal. And then the beautiful white hydrangeas. So it's such a pretty, fun combination. So again, experience. Love the arches. We use arches a ton in our veggie gardens. Some proteas, some scented geraniums, some more irises. This is cardoon here, and an old bird bath that they had on site that we situated. It's aligned, well, it's almost aligned with the center. It should be aligned with the center. I think it is. Anyway, it is the focal point, which is again sort of a really classic focal point item with maybe a less expected modern backdrop of this cardoon. And the cardoon's kind of dry and sad looking right now, but in general, this is super cool. We've got the glossy green from the citrus, the like craggy architectural cardoon leaf that's a cousin of the artichoke. There's some rosemary for fine evergreen texture. The bird bath with some water. Cute little sink. Does this work? Look at it. It does. We really like to try when there's space and budget to include a working space in the garden. It makes so much sense to be able to harvest your veggies, bring them over here, rinse them off, Or if you're doing flowers, like fill up a vase and just set them there until you're ready to process them and arrange them. So this is a super sweet little sink. Oh, and look at these blackberries behind it. This is cute. Oh, I like this a lot.
Yeah,
okay,
they're
I
finally
haven't been
coming
here.
in.
Yeah,
Took
this
them
is
a couple years, but it looks like they're not so robust, but
no, they
there's
look
a good number on
they
there.
totally look good. And what I love this framing here, I mean, it's all productive. I mean, so you've got our pomegranate, which is charmingly draped over, maybe a little too draped. The agonis, which is evergreen and is like exactly what we were going for, kind of feathery and light and see-through, but still like kind of just making it feel like you're in your own little spot here. An apricot tree, which in the winter is deciduous, but a lot of the time when you're out here is in the summer. So the apricot, and then a view of the orchard down below, which we'll do a little quick stroll through later, and the cardoon again. So this is such a charming place to sit and do your harvest. I'm really glad to see it. So that's cute. Blueberries. Backside of the bed is our dedicated cutting flower garden. This needs a little fixing up, but like dusty millers, some scabiosa, some dianthus. Cutting flowers are often not the prettiest thing, so we do a lot of work either styling them, like using evergreen anchors, or like tucking them on the back side so that when you're in the garden and working, you can access them and use them. But when you're entertaining and having your backyard party, you're not necessarily staring at tired blooms. Yay, so this is kind of Blueberry Alley, which is another experience we wanted to create back here. There are 3 children here at the house, so there's a lot of just like creating little destinations and moments to go to. And you can see there's under the pomegranate, there's a peony there. There's blueberries staggered, so 3, 3, and then we transition to huckleberries, their cousin huckleberry, and then the evergreen Heuchera rosata, which is a plant we're learning about too. We love it. So it's such, again, that broadleaf is so amazing. And this plant, this is a little smaller and more compact than the native Heuchera maxima. But we're learning that it gets rust a lot. I think maybe when it gets too much water, which is maybe the case because it's shaded here, or partially shaded, and is on landscape water for like irrigate for blueberries. So we're gonna be experimenting with this. But the basic idea is there. We've got staggered things, we've got some foliage contrast, and this brings us into kind of another zone. This is eventually gonna be a like hammock, or like as the kids become teens, a little hangout zone for them of some sort. So here we are, we like came around the little corner here and look at this view. I think this is one of the prettiest corners of this property. The London plane trees are doing a really good job of kind of softening that mid-high level area. And then under here, it's definitely a late summer. It's a little crazy, we're not gonna lie. It's a heavily planted garden with sort of a cottage feel, so it's a lot. In midsummer, there's no getting around it. But I do feel like we have enough repetition and color blocking that helps to guide the eye. And like the best example is this, the leucodendron jester, that like pinky orange color, pinky red. And I love the way it sticks to that canna that's over there, the tall burgundy canna. And then there's the next leucodendron jester. And then over in the patio, that color is brought through. And same way, you've got this bright pink alstroemeria, the pale white of the white pink of the gaura, which sticks to the rose, the purples, the whites. We've got a lot going on here, but we've actually got a pretty reined in color scheme. It might feel a little crazy, but it doesn't feel entirely crazy. And we like that. The backside of the perennial cut flower garden, which is just so many fun, pretty things. The gaura is gorgeous. This gorgeous yucca rostrata is so pretty. And again, like that's a great example of sort of the eclectic look that we were going for, which is sort of like a nod to Victorianism too. Like they would do a lot of colonizing and taking cool plants from different parts of the world. And that's what it was. I mean, they were going around and they were plant collecting in a pretty obnoxious way, and that was popular. So I mean, we can call it what it is. And you know, I think there resulted this really interesting, like a lot of English gardens actually include really beautiful tropicals and cordylines and bananas, and that sort of idea of bringing in tropicals and subtropicals into a temperate English or a temperate Californian climate was sort of established. And I think so it's somewhat of a nod toward that. And then it's also, this is such a classic low water California modern Mediterranean plant that you wouldn't expect to see adjacent to a rose and a gaura. And I think that's what makes this view really cool and kind of speaks to the family story of being connected with England and California, and also creates a landscape that you haven't necessarily seen before, which is often our goal. This is a future hot tub area, and I love that it's close enough to the house, but like still out of sight. We created a lot of privacy with bamboo. There's a giant grapefruit there in the corner. There's actually grapefruits on there. Awesome. And an avocado. Okay, there's actually a lot of food in here. This is kind of cool. We've got cardamom, which is another one we don't plant front and center because it gets a little messy, but there's cardamom, which this family actually uses for cooking, which is so cool. Look at this little grapefruit. Look at that guy. He's growing. I think that's Rio something or other variety. This is an avocado. I'm pretty sure it's the dwarf little cado because we didn't want it to get too tall and block the view. So evergreen. There's passion fruit back here. Check out these guys. So there's tons of fruit on here. It's a really sunny spot. And again, the passion fruit is really pretty, but it can get a little messy. So we didn't want that so front and center, but it's perfect here. And I love the way that cardamom leaf that I just showed you speaks really nicely. The shape of it speaks really nicely to this ornamental shell ginger. And so this whole space there's repetition, contrast, and evergreen food.
Ooh, what's this right here, Leslie?
Oh, our weeping mulberry tree. Also another gorgeous edible. And actually, if you come this way, I think you'll get the full. This is another one of our favorite views in the garden, and I love. It's such a great example of like integrating the perennial edible. So that's loaded with fruits in the spring. That weeping form is so special and unique, and kind of just eye-catching. Our little friend, the hydrangea Annabelle. Our new friend, the agapanthus, and then these stairs. These are actually existing brick stairs that we kind of rehabbed a little bit. But I love this view with the beautiful mongave, roses, cannas, the burgundy catinus. There's 2 quince trees following, 2 olive trees. Little cruise over here. But oh my, look at this pretty blue. Another example of sort of what I would consider an unexpected combination. You've got the classic hydrangea Annabelle, this blue conifer, the mongave, the olive, and so it's combining influences. As we do these tours, you will see part of why we thought we'd do them is we need to check on the maintenance in the gardens too, and check on the overall vision, because I mean that's with gardens. We learn a lot as we go along. These mongaves are actually a great example. They are much bigger than we thought they would be. Much bigger than they're supposed to be.
And initially they were both over on this side, and the maintenance team moved one of them across the pathway. And thank goodness they did, because they've gotten so much bigger even in
Exactly. Yeah, and I feel like when I think we even moved them off the pathway because they started to block the pathway. So some of the plants are just really happy, like happier than you think they're going to be, and you got to edit. And so there's editing that happens in every garden. We have so much grass editing to do. I can't even deal with it. But we're learning. That's what makes it fun. Anyways, pretty roses. Look at this gorgeous rose. And so as we talked about sort of the tight color palette that's on that other part of the garden, it's like subdued. It's the whites, the purples, the pale pinks, and then those rusty tones that make it look a little unexpected. As we come over here, it gets way more punchy, and that's intentional. So we've got the super bright orange from the cannas. We've got a more vibrant rose color. Look at this bright one. For some reason I'm forgetting all my rose names, but do you remember? Anyway, Holly could tell us, or there's a tag, but maybe it's free to call though? Might be. Anyway, so bright, so pretty, and then look at how these colors get so strong. We've got the caprasma, leucodendron ebony, which is a favorite. Here we've got the same Berkeley. It's really nice. It speaks to those ones over there, but those are like a pale, soft blue purple. This is the super intense saturated purple, which is great, and helps us to know when to do space. And I think over here, this part of the garden is looking a little shaggy, so we're going to do a little work here. But I just want to point out the columnar apple, which I think is so cool. So we've got one columnar apple here, another one there, and they sort of alternate with this cool banksia. I think as you're walking, yeah, there's a really beautiful wisteria growing along there. I love the end of this pathway, just this view shed with the really strappy cordylines. The color repetition of that rusty gold orange, the silver, the super saturated burgundy. There's a lot more burgundy in this part of the garden. And then over here in this shady walkway, which is maybe the last. Yeah, this is one of my favorite parts of the garden. I don't think it's gonna video that well right now. Some of the understory is a little, maybe just end of summer kind of dry, but it's so pretty. I mean, this is really, I think, a walkway that has a lot of feeling. We've got the same tree ferns creating that canopy. Our favorite cashmere cypress with this drapey blue. A little bit of broadleaf contrast with the variegated ficus, the rubber tree. And an understory that's evergreen and floral. We've got alstroemeria, little agave variegatas, sagos, dianella, heuchera. These heuchera have not done well, unfortunately. I guess we're learning that. So many lessons to learn. And a lot of just special shade material. This beautiful acer, there's camellias, our favorite photopurpose, icy blue, a cheflora. So some of these are, I mean, the cheflora is sort of known as a house plant, but because it's so mild here and because it does fine with less light, it's sort of a nice, less expected ingredient here. This is one of our favorite trees. It's actually not looking that good, but it's the Cercis Carolina sweetheart. So it's a tricolor variegated redbud tree, which in theory I love here because you've got this green shady backdrop, and whenever you're in the shade, I think it's so nice to use white variegation just to like make things pop a little, and it brightens up a shady corner. Sadly, it's losing its leaves. We'll come back and check on it. And I think our tour is almost over. We got some beautiful palmy textures. I just want to point out the quince. Oh, look, we got some little baby quince on here. Quince is one of our favorite fruit trees for the sort of a more formal or focal point view. They're actually they're in the apple family. So it's it's like a really hard, astringent apple. Sounds delicious, I know, but it is really delicious. You have to, they're not ripe yet, but later in the fall, they drop when they're ready. And you've got to skin them and boil them. It's a whole preparation, but they're really delicious. I think the best description I could give is maybe like a rose flavored apple. Does that sound right? Yeah. Anyway, they're delicious. So we love to introduce them to anybody who loves fruit or loves cooking and like sort of specialty ingredients. And then we love to use them in the landscape because they've just got such a pretty form. Like it's a really classic, elegant tree form, which is not the case with all fruit trees. So in this, again, very formal space, and this is actually a great view of the property as well. We've got one quince and then the other quince, and they're very formally situated, centered on the lawn, and lined up with the architecture. And they're a fruit tree that can actually do that. Like I wouldn't ask an avocado to do that. I wouldn't ask a lot of weird looking fruit trees to do that, but a quince, also apples and pears tend to be really nice, tidy fruit trees. So we'll sometimes use a tidier, more classic form fruit tree to do formal work in the garden. It's been really helpful, I think, hopefully for all of you to see the garden and like hear a little bit about what we see and what we think is exciting at this time of year. And then it's helpful for me and Jessica because we can see what's needed for maintenance. I think the maintenance team is doing an amazing job here. There's a lot to do. It's only 2 gardeners. They come here, 2 gardeners come together twice a month here. So that's not insignificant, but it's also not a lot of support for taking care of all of these plants. So I think we know we might try and add another garden or 2 to the next visit, rein things in, which is appropriate for late summer. And enter the fall. Oh my gosh, we have the orchard to look at. Should we look at the orchard? It's a little crazy, so we actually won't show you everything. But there will be a lot of fruit, so maybe we'll try and come back here in the fall and check out some of the fall fruit harvest. So we're in the orchard. We're out of time, so I can't really do a whole thing, but I don't know, this orchard, we love it. It's like ridiculous. It's this hillside area, which is technically actually northeast facing, but so open it gets a lot of sun. And we had the idea to turn it into an orchard meadow cutting flower extravaganza. And I don't remember, there's eight or 12 fruit trees, there's grasses, there's so many flowers. This neighborhood does have deer. This is up on a ledge, but so we tried to prevent or deter the deer. There's a bunch of really cool mangaves and agaves and nolinas and just really cool plants along the edge. So we can share those more later. And this is just an informal space. It's actually really fun because the rest of the garden is so formal. This is a place where we can grow squash, where we can grow yarrow. Look at these gorgeous straw flowers. Our client loves arranging flowers, as we said, so she loves to order seeds and start them and then just have a place to plant them. This is Status, which I'm super psyched about. We've grown it for years. I personally haven't seen it that much, so this is a really successful stand.
You know what's interesting about that is this one and a couple other places we planted like, it must be a hybrid variety, and this one looks like maybe it was like lavender, and then we got a couple that were peachy, but when they re-bloomed after the winter, they're mostly all white.
Oh, that's so interesting. I know, I was kind of surprised because I don't remember Michelle wanting all white flowers.
No.
I was like, and our client loves white flowers.
Nope, they reverted
our
back.
Our client got white flowers. And lavender ones in that season. Yeah, I think just take a little peek here. It's so cool. There's anise, there's echinacea, that's a peach tree. Look at this gorgeous dahlia coming along. Hollyhocks, irises. I mean, there is so much cutting material in here. Scabiosa. What is this? Who knows? Sometimes in a space like that, it's hard to know if it's a weed or...
What is that?
It's intentional, though, I think. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure.
A little pineapple guava and wistringia. There's definitely evergreen. We sort of created a winding path through here, and we used yarrow, wistringia. This is the pineapple guava right here. We used evergreens to kind of guide us through, and then like planted a lot of other soft things in between it. Check out the compost bin. So cool. Maybe not being used so much right now, but that's okay. It's an awesome structure. And as we go down, there's just more fruit trees. There's apples, plums, cherry, more pineapple guava, aloes, an elderberry, a fig. I actually love this end zone. We needed to screen the neighbor, so we used from the acacia with that same really pretty kind of muddy purpley blue tone. The broadleaf fig in front of it. Look at that fennel, that's bronze fennel. In a space like this, we really love to use plants that can host pollinators and natives. So we have a good amount of milkweed in little patches throughout the garden. We've got the fennel intentionally to support swallowtail butterflies, the milkweeds for monarchs, and then a ton of low water with the salvia camedrius. I think I'm saying that right. Just low water blooms that support pollinators and are not adding too much to the overall water intake of the property. There's an avocado, more straw flowers, more yarrow. It's cute. I don't know if this is what everybody would want for their garden. It might feel a little overwhelming if this was like your like primary living or entertaining or hangout space. Or maybe it's, or maybe it's your dream. But I really like it as exactly what it is. It's like a secondary or tertiary space on this larger property. And here, the front yard is so like tight and formal and clean. Eclectic, but clean. The backyard is a lot looser, but again, very formal. And then here, we're just kind of, it's really loose, it's meadowy, it's natural. You can have that experience of just kind of walking through and plucking and seeing what's happening and enjoying it. So I love this orchard and how we turned a pretty steep slope, an unused steep slope. This is just like a mass of cotoneaster before, it was nothing. And now it's this really creative, abundant destination. And can't wait to see it grow more. So I think we'll try and come back in the fall. That's it for now. Thanks for coming along on our first ever seasonal garden tour.
Yay!